When most people think of Evansville, Indiana, they picture a beautiful city along the Ohio River. But beneath that peaceful surface are ghost stories, forgotten tunnels, river monsters, bizarre discoveries, and the remains of an ancient city that once stretched along these banks. Today, we're uncovering the legends, the history, and the hidden mysteries of Evansville to discover which ones are actually true. Each time I hit the road, I tell myself, have a good time, don't make it weird. But somehow, weird always seems to find me. Like here at the Dogtown Boat Ramp in Evansville, Indiana, where an ordinary summer day became a local legend that's been told and retold for more than 70 years. On August 21st, 1955, Naomi Johnson brought her children and a friend to the Dogtown area. It's a place along the Ohio River on the west side of Evansville. She'd planned a carefree day at the river, a way to beat the summer heat. Instead, it became one of Evansville's strangest stories. While Naomi was swimming, without warning, something beneath the surface grabbed her leg and tried to pull her underwater. She kicked and kicked until it let go, then swam to shore as fast as she could. Once on dry land, she told of a green creature with clawed paws and a body covered with coarse hair or fur. Both witnesses and hospital staff said she had deep scratches on her leg and swelling around her knee. They also reported a strange green hand-shaped stain that remained on her leg for several days, but that was only the beginning. Newspapers across the country picked up the bizarre tale, and people began searching for a logical explanation. Some suggested she had encountered a large snapping turtle. Their powerful claws and algae-covered shells might explain part of what she described, but the mystery didn't stop there. Adding more to the story, Naomi also claimed that moments before the attack, she'd seen a silver disc-shaped object in the sky. Before long, rumors spread that Air Force investigators had came to interview her, leading some to wonder if the encounter had something to do with extraterrestrials. But here's yet another interesting twist. Just 1 year earlier, the movie Creature from the Black Lagoon had been released in 1954. It featured a large, green, and clawed monster that looked surprisingly similar to Naomi's description. Was it a river monster? A frightened swimmer misidentifying what grabbed her? Or a story that simply grew with each retelling? No one knows for sure. After it was all over, Naomi said, "All I know is that I will never go swimming in that river again." Built in 1885 by lumber baron and philanthropist Willard Carpenter, the Willard Library was created with a remarkable vision. It would be free and open to everyone, regardless of race, gender, or social class. That was a bold idea in the late 1800s. Willard even established a trust to ensure the library would remain free for generations. It has elegant reading rooms with tall ceilings, amazing woodwork that would cost millions to replicate today. That is, if you could even find craftsmen of the same caliber. It resembles a mansion that just happens to have a lot of books, and some say it has another bonus. On a cold winter morning in 1937, around 3 a.m., the library's custodian came to the basement to tend to the furnace before the building opened. He was walking through the dim basement with a flashlight when he nearly walked into a woman wearing a long gray dress and gray shawl, sometimes described as a veil. As he stared at her, the figure reportedly faded into the darkness. The encounter frightened him so much that he quit his job shortly afterward. The ghost is often believed to be Louise Carpenter, the daughter of library founder Willard Carpenter. The legend claims that Louise was unhappy after her father left much of his estate to maintain the library, and that she unsuccessfully challenged the will in court. In other words, there was a grudge. However, the library itself notes that the Gray Lady's identity is not proven and remains part of the mystery. Naturally, I wanted to check out the basement, but when I went downstairs, I found that it's now the children's section. And the only thing creepier than a woman's ghost in a library is a man in his 50s taking video of a children's area. I didn't stay long. Many claim that they've seen the Gray Lady throughout the library, not just the basement. She seems to get around, either making appearances, cold places, footsteps, or unexplained sounds. And in 1999, the library installed 24-hour ghost cams, so people can try to see her from home. There are pictures of alleged sightings online. Yet when I visited, all I encountered was the most beautiful library that I'd ever seen. A labor of love by a man that just wanted to give back to his community. Maybe kindness is the only spirit you really need. When you look at the Vanderburgh County Courthouse, it looks like a very old European masterwork. Some believe in the Tartarian theory, saying that these kind of buildings are in fact much older than history books tell us, that they belong to a forgotten ancient world. It's a little fringe and a completely different rabbit hole than what we'll cover today. But what is indisputable, the courthouse is built right on top of the first graveyard in Evansville. Official records say that they relocated the skeletons, but they have still found human remains over the years. You know, entire movies have been dedicated to creepy stuff like that, and why it's a bad idea. Surely spooky stuff is not the case here. Wait, it is. Underneath the courthouse is a hidden creepy tunnel system built in the 1800s. It goes to the old jail across the street and branches out under the city, and people have been found dead in the tunnel system. In the 1920s, a security guard was found dead there. It was ruled a heart attack, but it's not clear if something scared him to death. In 1973, there was an unsolved murder of a woman. As you might imagine, lots of haunted stories have followed. I stumbled upon one subterranean passage just by being nosy. I saw this huge building that looked like it was part of Quebec. This was the old post office and customs house. By the 1870s, Evansville had become one of the busiest river ports on the Ohio River. The federal government wanted a building that reflected the city's growing importance. Construction began in 1873. This incredible building was completed in 1879 and looks like a palace both inside and out. It once housed the post office, customs office, and even federal courts. Today it serves many functions, from office space to an event venue. I bet you could have your wedding reception right here. It has its share of beautiful liminal spaces, but taking the steps down goes to a basement tunnel. A tunnel is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. storage space, funky smells, homeless people that don't want you there, someone hiding in the shadows that wants your money. Or if you're lucky, a little bit of history, like this great model of the old post office. It definitely needs a little TLC. Things that are old and falling apart have a very strange appeal. And so do old tunnels that have arched ceilings and lead to uncertain places. Some of the 1800s era tunnel sections have been sealed, but many still exist. Some are hidden in the shadows, attached to private property, or simply locked to keep prying eyes away. And to someone that has a flashlight and a stupid high level of curiosity, I can only wonder where to find the on-ramp to darkness. The year was 1902, and Indiana was building an improved system of locks along the Ohio River. This would allow bigger ships to carry more cargo from Pennsylvania all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. The first challenge was to dredge the river and remove large deposits of sand. They needed the river to have a guaranteed depth for these very large ships. But when they began dumping this sand on the Evansville riverbank, they found something they did not expect. They found what looked like a human body, but this one was petrified, like an ancient fossil. John Eigenmann was the dredging supervisor and took possession of the petrified man. He had the 300-pound man moved to a safe place on 2nd and Main. He wasn't sure what to do with it. Medical doctors and geologists were called in to examine the body. It was said to be that of a small man, 5.5 feet tall, and anatomically correct down to the veins in his hands. Indiana Governor Winfield Durbin traveled over 3 hours from Indianapolis to see for himself and thought it was incredible. Realizing the great interest in the petrified man, Mr. Eigenmann set it up as a tourist attraction and started charging admission. Seeing that a great deal of money was being made, the man that helped remove it from the sand sued for partial ownership. But this would be short-lived. As quickly as it had appeared, the petrified body vanished. And without a body, there was nothing left to argue about. The case was dismissed. But a short time later, Mr. Eigenmann and the body reappeared at Rockport, where he was again charging admission. As it was only a short drive down the river from Evansville, he was quickly found out. The exhibit closed, but this time for good. The petrified man was never seen again. When an unusual artifact disappears, people immediately draw conclusions. I bet the Smithsonian stole it. Maybe a rich private collector bought it. I bet the government has it because they don't think we can handle the truth. Or finally, aliens. But maybe the truth is a little more simple. The petrified man looked like a statue, and if there's one place in the world where people can carve statues, that would be southern Indiana. Visiting Green Hill Cemetery at Bedford, Indiana, the limestone capital of the world, you can see some very fine sculptures made by master craftsmen. People have written off the petrified man as a hoax, but there is plenty of room for conspiracy theories and a twist you didn't see coming. In the history of the world, a petrified person has never been found. It defies science and timescale on many levels. But what if it wasn't that? But a really old statue that shouldn't be at the bottom of the Ohio River. otherwise known as an out-of-place artifact. It could be that a wealthy collector bought the artifact. In Indiana, we had plenty of those, such as William Borden, that had his own museum. He was known for buying curiosities, and it would have looked great in his collection. Whether John Eigenmann cashed in on the petrified man, or if it's still hidden somewhere in southern Indiana, we'll probably never know. He died about 4.5 years after the last sighting of the petrified man, taking the secret to his grave. Just another legend among many that make the strange backstory of southern Indiana. If you walk the Evansville waterfront today, you find many sights for the eyes. You'll find the historic Pagoda Visitor Center, Vietnam Memorial, Four Freedoms Memorial, Korean War Memorial, Dress Plaza for watching boats along the Ohio River, the LST-325, a World War II warship that participated in D-Day. It might have a haunted story or two. One of the finest museums in Indiana, covering history, science, and art. A transportation museum. Not to forget Mickey's Kingdom, the largest free playground in southern Indiana. You even have a skate park. And the only waterfall in Indiana that flows directly into the Ohio River. It is certainly some prime real estate, but as I've said it before, good real estate is always good real estate, even in ancient times. A little over 1,000 years ago, this entire place was an ancient city occupied by an unknown people. Today we call them the Mississippian culture. They were the same people that built Cahokia in Illinois and the largest earthwork in North America. In its time, it was bigger than London. Before hotels, monuments, and museums, the Ohio River shoreline was lined with a prehistoric settlement. Much of it was destroyed in the 1800s. What remains is Angel Mounds, where you can see one of the best preserved ancient sites in North America. Between 1939 and 1964, Dr. Glenn Black excavated 600 acres, retrieving over 2.3 million artifacts. This included fine pottery, figurines, tools, and the evidence of royal homes. It was truly a find of the century. The current interpretive center shows a movie about modern tribes, has posters about the site, modern native arts and crafts, and about a dozen artifacts out of 2.3 million. Most are located at Indiana University's museum at Bloomington. Out the back door is the main attraction, an ancient city waiting to be explored. Dr. Black found remnants of a large wall that surrounded the village, about 17 feet tall. This is a reconstruction. It's unclear whom the enemy was to need something 17 feet tall. The average man was 5 feet tall, with women just 4.5. There are earthworks all across the landscape. I highly recommend walking the grounds after chigger season. Once you experience chiggers, you won't forget them. Kind of like an ancient curse. The highlight is a very large platform mount that has a clear view of the landscape leading down to the Ohio River. Without a written language, there are many unsolved mysteries about these people, including what happened to them. About 1450 AD, they left without a trace. But as strange as this place is, something here is a little stranger. Just before you turn into the Angel Mound's Interpretive Center driveway, there's a solitary ancient earthwork right across Pollock Avenue. Known by archaeologists as Mound G, it's not like the others. For starters, Mound G is the oldest ancient earthwork in Vanderburgh County. Its shape and structure predate the type of earthworks found on the Angel Mound's property by hundreds of years. It's estimated that it was constructed between 2,000 and 2,500 years ago. This era is well known for incredibly odd artifacts and reports of unusually large skeletons. These range from 6.5 feet, which was tall for a people that were usually about 5 feet tall. And then there were other strange reports with skeletons 8 feet and above. In the 1800s, Mound G was described as 200 feet in diameter and 25 feet high. That's pretty big for a tomb usually containing only one person. Does the letter G in Mound G stand for giant? I'm just putting that out there. But here's where it gets really odd. Unlike the other earthworks at Angel Mounds, it's never been systematically excavated. For 25 years, Dr. Glenn Black excavated the Angel Mounds Plateau, consisting of 600 acres. He found over 2.3 million artifacts, and yet, in all of that time, he left the oldest earthwork alone and undocumented. It doesn't make any sense. Not knowing something with certainty is where mystery, legends, and dreams begin. Maybe that's the gift that Dr. Black left us. As I walk along the Ohio River, it's hard not to think about everything that's happened here over the centuries. An ancient city rose here and then disappeared. A strange creature emerged from these waters and was never explained. A ghost still wanders the halls of one of Indiana's most beautiful libraries, at least if you believe the stories. Hidden tunnels still run beneath the streets, reminding us that every city has secrets just below the surface. And somewhere along the way, a petrified man appeared, then vanished almost as quickly as he came. Maybe every one of these stories has a perfectly ordinary explanation, or maybe some questions are meant to stay unanswered. That's the thing about history. We like to think it's finished, but every generation discovers something new, questions something old, or uncovers another forgotten story. And sometimes the greatest mystery isn't whether the legends are true, it's how quickly we forget the people and places that created them. So the next time you pass through Evansville, don't just look at what's standing in front of you. Think about what's beneath your feet, what used to stand here, and what stories are still waiting to be discovered. Because if this trip has taught me anything, it's that history is a whole lot more interesting when you leave a few mysteries unsolved. Maybe it's time to go find some. Maybe it's time for a road trip.